All right, so I believe we're live, and that is very, very exciting. So I'm Melody Carlisle. I'm from the Heaving Bosoms podcast, and I have had the absolute honor of being able to moderate the Small Town Romance panel. And when I saw the schedule and had the option of choosing the panel, I was like, I think I have to choose this one because I'm a resident expert. I don't mean to brag, but I grew up in a town of 396 people. So I know about this stuff. But there are more people who know about this stuff. Do we have feedback on y'all's end? Okay. Oh, I think we're good now.
Yeah, there you go. That works.
Okay. Oh, yeah, because everybody needs to have headphones if you don't have them.
Oop.
I'm not sure.
I do not have any. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Try to get some headphones on there because otherwise your computer mic will pick up everybody else talking. Sorry. I should have told you that before.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. I think you're actually pretty fine. So sorry, viewers. But we have some other experts on small town romance, and that is the 4 amazing authors that are sitting with us right now. So we've got Joe McNally, we've got Tobin McClain, Naima Simone, and Michelle Major. So I figured we should start off and y'all should tell us about, yourselves, your newest releases, maybe give them a plot breakdown of what they can pick up from you. And then we can just talk about small town romance in general. So, Lee, do you want to start?
Well, sure thing. I am so happy to be here. It's great to see you guys. Can you hear me okay? No feedback?
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're great.
Okay, great. Because I don't have my earbuds in.
Okay.
But anyway, I write a lot about the Chesapeake Bay, and my newest release, like the 3 previous, is about a little town that I invented called Pleasant Shores on the Chesapeake Bay. I have always been fascinated by tourist towns during the off season. So that's the name of the series, is the off season. So it's about the locals who live in the town when it's not, tourist time. And so the book that I just had out this summer, it's called Home to the Harbor. Oh, thank you.
No problem.
It's set on the Chesapeake Bay. It's a single mom who spent her life in a man's world because she's inherited the family business of being a commercial fisherman. So she's very tough, very independent, but she's kind of getting a little bit lonely because her only daughter, is getting ready to go to college. And so she's looking at an empty nest. Maybe there's a little bit of autobiography there, being a single mom with a college student daughter. But anyway, she's very tall, she's very independent, and her best friend comes back to town, her best childhood friend. He's in need of some kind of, revitalization, and he can find it in the little town of Pleasant Shores. So I loved writing the book.
That is so fun. I'm seeing a lot of themes there that are sort of my catnip with small town romance. So that's exciting. Naima, do you wanna go next?
Sure, why not? My name is Naima Simone, and I write about the town of Rose Bend. And this is I just happen to have that here, by the way. I know, coincidence?
Yeah.
You're so great. So this is my first single title with HQN, and it's the first book in the Rose Bend series. And the second book is coming out in October, and it's going to be a Christmas book, which I'm so excited about because Christmas is my jam. But yeah, I know. But this book, again, is about it's actually a homecoming story, and the heroine Sydney Collins is returning to Rose Bend after 8 years. She left 8 years ago, and she's kind of like the town rebel, but she's coming back newly divorced, and she's pregnant, and after kind of like a drunken one night stand with her ex. And she's coming back and she wants to give her baby this safe home to raise her child in. And even though she's kind of estranged from her folks, this community has always been a loving, safe, welcoming place. And so, of course, she's not looking for romance. So she's just returning for her child. I mean, right, men.
Gosh.
Yeah. they got cooties and they stink right about now. So of course, the first person she bumps into is the town mayor, who happens to be the older brother of her childhood friend. And Coltrane Dennison, and he's a grieving widower. And so, of course, he's not looking for romance either because, grieving widower. So they happen to connect, and it's a friends to lovers story, and it's also a marriage of convenience story because Sydney's ex, he returns and he has his own agenda about wanting custody of the baby when it's born. So Cole is like, yeah, let's marry, friends only, no shenanigans. Actually, Sydney wants orgasms, but can I say that on a Sunday?
I support that.
Yeah,
of course you can. Orgasms are good for every day.
I think God blesses them.
That's
right. So of course nothing stays platonic, right? You can never keep emotions out of a marriage of convenience or friends to lovers. Completely. Hence the lovers. So they fall for each other, but there's a lot of healing that has to be done along the way. And so of course it's romance, so they get their happily ever after in the end. That's not a spoiler, I don't think.
No, not in this community. Not at all. That's what we come here for. All right, wonderful. So Michelle, do you want to take it away?
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah, go.
Shoot. And do you have any?
Go to Joe, and I'm gonna get off video and try to go find my AirPods.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, Joe, hello. Oh, you're muted.
Better?
Yeah.
Oh, there. How's that?
Now you're better.
No echo? No echo? Okay,
no,
good.
You're wonderful.
Okay. Well, I write the small town series that I just have released this month. Love Blooms backwards on the screen, but takes place in Rendezvous Falls. Thank you. Which is where my Harlequin series is set. Rendezvous Falls is a quirky little town known for its Victorian houses. Like every house is a wild mix of different colors, and
I love that.
Comes from all over. The other unique thing with the Rendezvous Falls series in general is that there's, well, not totally unique to romance. There's always a meddling book club, but in this case, somebody from the senior meddling book club gets a point of view in the book. So there's really 3 points of view through there. So we kind of see romance happening and life happening from somebody a little bit more mature as well. So, and they're kind of a bawdy, sassy group that likes to think they're matchmakers, and they're really, really bad at it.
Oh,
so that makes the series fun. Yeah. With this particular book, both of these characters are new to Rendezvous Falls, which doesn't always happen with small town. Neither one of them are coming home, but they find their home there. Lucy is actually a runaway bride. I was dying to do something with a runaway bride series, except I wanted the groom to come win her back. So Owen, once he's left standing in the church doorway with a note in his hand that she's gone, after moping around a little bit, decides he's got to figure out what went wrong and go find her and win her back. So he goes up to Rendezvous Falls where she is. She's working in a flora shop now with her older friend Connie. And when Owen gets there, he's determined, but Owen is, my agent dubbed him as my lovable dumbass, because he really is he's just like clueless sometimes on how to do things.
We love
so
a himbo.
He actually looks up one of his army buddies, hooks him up with a phone app on how to grovel, how to win your girl back.
Get it.
So he's following steps from that, which sometimes go well and sometimes do not. It's always a good idea to know what your ex-fiance is allergic to. I'll leave it at that. But he does, of course, they've both made mistakes. These are both people that, she did something impulsive and left him at the altar and left everyone in North Carolina and came to Rendezvous Falls, which is in the Finger Lakes in New York. And he neglected her in some ways and just wasn't paying attention. He had other things going on and realized he kind of forgot to pay attention to her. So they have to get past a lot of things to find their happily ever after and figure out what, Owen is follow the rules, by the book. There's a plan. His family has a plan for him to take over the business. That's always been the plan. That's what he was planning to do. That's what life is about. And he realizes that, the plan may need a little bit of tweaking and everybody has to compromise to make it work, which is one of the things I really like in romance in general and in small town romance with all the meddlers, but they all figure out a way to help them reach that happy place.
I love that. Oh, that's so wonderful. All right, Michelle.
Okay.
Hi.
Can you hear me now?
Hi, you're so wonderful. Yeah. You sound so good.
Well, I don't sound that good. I got a little cold when I took my son to college. This is why I sound like Demi Moore. I don't normally sound this like, ooh.
I mean, I'm digging it.
Right?
So.
My husband too, honestly.
Yeah.
So
there we go.
whatever works. So my latest book is Wildflower Season, which I'm hoping you can hold up because I don't have it with me.
Of course.
There you go. Beautiful cover.
So gorgeous.
So Wildflower Season is the first book in the Carolina Girls season. It is set in the town of Magnolia, North Carolina, which is a fictional town that I created, although there is a town of Magnolia, North Carolina. However, it is not in the same location where I created it. And although I live in Colorado, I grew up in Ohio, and we spent every summer traveling down to the Outer Banks and the North and South Carolina. And I was just, I wanted, when I started this series, I really wanted the ocean and the coast to kind of be a character within the book. And I think there's something really special about that. As Lee was saying also, Magnolia is a town that at the start of the Magnolia Sisters series had kind of fallen on hard times. And so there was a lot of rejuvenation, which I think is exciting, and a lot of opportunities for characters. In Wildflower Season, we meet Emma, who has just gone through a horrible divorce. So wants nothing to do with love, but she does want to reinvent her life. And she buys this this house, this old mansion that she wants to turn into an inn and kind of a wedding destination. And then I think some of us can relate, there was a little flooding and damage after a storm. And so what does she need? She needs a handyman,
a contractor.
Right?
I love a contractor.
Yes. So that's then we bring in Cam Arlinghouse, who is the hero, reluctant hero. He is also a widower and kind of a hermit. He's really pulled away from life because he had his heart broken, but he ends up working with Emma as a favor to the sister of his late wife. And I will say shenanigans ensue, and there's a lot of, I'm a little bit of an HGTV addict. I've redone my own home. So there's a lot of love among the rubble and hammers and lots of fun things happening. So, but I love, one of the things I love best about small town is the community. And when you write a series in a small town, people show up again and they revisit. And I think readers and myself as an author, these people become my friends and my family, and I know them. And so there will be 2 more books in the Carolina Girls series, a Christmas book coming out in October, and then a really wedding themed book coming out next spring. And I just hope readers will really enjoy kind of going deeper into all of these lives, because I did. So
yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Already, you all have talked about things that are just like, I don't know, things that I love in small town romance. So I love a widower. I love a grumpy hermit. I love a resident contractor. I love like the idea of like trying to find sanctuary in a small town. There's so much that I love being paired with this subgenre. So I'm wondering, if there are any tropes that you all feel like really just blend beautifully with small town romance, any tropes, any, themes. And I think we can probably just come off mute. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I love, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I love fish out of water with small town. Yeah. Like when that city person comes to the small town and they're totally clueless. And not even just to like hiking or fishing, or they're clueless to the sense of community and people getting to each other's business, and somebody like just the sense of like love and home and closeness that's in the community. Like they're so totally confused by it, because I'm from New Jersey, and coming to even to the South. And now I live in the South. And when I went back home, and when you're in the South, and like I came to the South for school, and the first time someone said hi to me and I didn't know them, I was like, well, what's wrong with them? Like, why are you saying hi to me? I don't know you. I don't know you like that. And then when I went home, I kind of like got acclimated to that. And I said hi. My father was like, what are you doing? Like, what do you? So it's kind of like that going to a small town. It's like so that fish out of water trope is so fun to me, to see them just kind of so out of their element. And I just think it's totally fun.
Yeah, completely agree. Those very particular type of shenanigans are just delightful.
And I know, Naima, I from upstate New York, then we lived in North Carolina for 10 years and have just moved back north. But you're so right. It's like my sister-in-law would come visit, and you're driving down the road and you just like anybody walk, you just wave to everybody. And she's like, who is that? It's like, I don't know. But you just wave to everybody. They're going to wave to you. So
right.
Exactly. Now that I'm back in New York, people drive by and go, do I know you?
Why are you talking to me? I don't know you like that.
And I think that you picked up on something. When I was in North Carolina, we were on a little dead end street that was like its own little small town community. And when somebody new would move in, I would tell them, it's like, people pay attention. People are necessarily in there, but notice if something's going on. They got a little bit, but they're not necessarily. There's not a negative behind it all. I think that to answer I think the second chance lends itself to small town, because in a small town you're going to keep bumping into each other all the time. It kind of lends itself to that trope. And like lovers a lot, and I think in the small town gives it a little bit lighter flavor. I mean, they're enemies, but it's not usually do or die. It's just their rival businesses or something that can be fun as they try to resolve it.
Yeah, most definitely. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we lost you for us. Yeah, absolutely. How do so many small towns support a specialty cupcake business? How does it happen? I'm glad that it does.
Yeah.
We're just glad they do.
Exactly.
Absolutely are.
All right,
I
Leah,
don't know if
Michelle.
Joe Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Lee.
Okay, so I don't know if I didn't hear everything Joe said, but I actually love to put together the trope of small town romance with secret babies, which is a little bit ironic because I write the sort of clean and wholesome romance where how could you have a secret baby? But you actually find a way. Everybody finds a way.
Yeah.
But in a small town, there's so much potential for, you know, hey, you look like so-and-so, or hey, I wonder what was happening about 10 years ago at this time. You know, there's just so much gossip potential in a small town that it really makes a lot of fun conflict in a secret baby romance.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, really, small town and any secret whatsoever sort of seem to be completely opposed to, you know, but I love those two tropes put together. That's awesome.
And I think Joe mentioned this one, but my favorite is Second Chances. I love second chance romance anyway, because when you have that history between the hero and heroine, you can just kind of throw them into the emotional fire right from the bat. And I think it lends itself to small towns because everybody has an opinion on what happened back then and who did what. And so to me, it's one of my favorites to read, and it's one of my favorites to write.
Absolutely.
Oh, how fun. Yeah. Another thing that I really love about small town romance is sort of the feeling of like unique familiarity, if that makes any sense, you know? And I love a found family and an extended family, and I feel like small town is just so rife for potential there. So I'm wondering, what's your favorite part about writing small town romance? Because I know that y'all dabble in other subgenres as well. So what makes that special for you?
I think for me, it's the found community. It's fun having people create those friendships. One of my favorite things writing is the romance between all the guys. And male communication fascinates me. It's like a whole different species when they're together. And I love writing those scenes, kind of seeing those friendships build. And then of course the work friendships too. But the found family, I think, in a small town just lend themselves well to the background of romance.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And keeping all of those extended characters close is really, really nice.
So for me, I love the journey. Like I always say, I take my heroines on this journey of self-discovery, and they're sort of becoming more of themselves. And I think in a small town and within that community, it just lends itself to figuring out who you are and where you're meant to be. And then the hero, I like to take on the emotional. I mean, I think they're both on the emotional journey, right? But for him, I want him to develop through the love. And I mean, there is just no better way you can develop than a small town festival. I mean, there's a million of them all over the place. It's Christmas, it's fall, everything.
Oh my gosh, you're so right.
And so there's so many, little ways to make it sweet and cute and emotional without, to me, seeming gimmicky.
Okay, yeah.
I think it feels very authentic in a small town when you're focusing on those tiny moments that really mean a lot emotionally.
That makes a lot of sense. And one of the things I was thinking about while preparing for this panel is like, what are the things that you can do in a small town that you might not be able to do as easily in a big city setting? And I feel like a festival, a festival is one of those things. Are there anything that like immediately come to mind for you that you're just like, no, that this demands a small town?
Well, I don't know if this is exactly a demand of it, but I love the way that you can have that I can escape into a small town, escape from the world and its problems. And I hope that my readers can too. And it's sort of like what Naima was saying. You know, if you say hi to a stranger in a big city, it's dangerous at times. Like you're going to, at a minimum, get panhandled. But
Yeah.
if you say, you know, if you can connect with other people, it's just such a protected cocoon of an environment. And I feel like we really need that these days. I know a lot of times I pick up a book and I just want to escape to that cocoon. I don't want to really think very deep thoughts beyond like what Michelle was talking about, which are good, deep thoughts that aren't threatening at all, right? Like I just want to be safe, and I want my readers to feel that way. And you could do that so much in a small town.
Absolutely. That sense of like just being ensconced in comfort and security. I like that a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just gonna piggyback off of like all of that. Like one of the things I just love writing about it is I'm just gonna like, people hear me say this all the time, especially around Christmas. I post about it like fanatically. I'm the town herald around October 26th or 24th. Hallmark Christmas movies are coming. Like,
oh yeah.
One of the reasons I love watching them. And then when I was like, okay, I want to write a small town romance series, it was the perfect excuse to just like binge them. Is I love watching the small towns that they're set in, because the towns themselves have such character. The people themselves build that town. They make the towns unique. And, you know, they have, you know, the matriarch, they have, you know, the busybody, the person who owns the coffee shop, who's always giving advice. You know, it's just them who make up the very fabric of the town. And it's such fun to write, because every book will have that person in the book. And every time you pick up, either whether it's book 1 or it's book 5, the reader, because I know for myself reading small town series, I'm counting on seeing those characters. And it's like Michelle said, it's like revisiting old friends. And I'm counting on seeing them and looking forward to seeing them, to see what they're up to, or seeing what they're going to add to the book, or whose business they're going to be in, how they're going to contribute. So it's fun for me as an author to write it, and as a reader to, you know, just lose myself in it.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Well, I think that is a really good segue, because one of the things I wanted to ask everybody about is, you know, the character of your small towns. And we've already dabbled in it a little bit, because truly, I think that, you know, small town is one of those places where the setting itself becomes its own character. Like I think about Stars Hollow, and that to me is like quirky and whimsical.
So
Virgin River is like, I don't know, sturdy and rustic and like a little bit stubborn. So how would you characterize the towns in your current series?
I want to say my town of Pleasant Shores is like a bossy and interfering neighbor.
That's so good.
I really like that.
That's so good.
I think with Rendezvous Falls, it's in wine country, in New York State's wine country, and you know, there's a small community college there, so there's a lot of eclectic features with Rendezvous Falls that make it a lot of fun. Not only the Victorian houses, but just, you know, there's artists as people, and then there's the folks that have been there for 10 generations and, you know, have lived in the same house for all those years, whatever. So it's that mix of the college community and the people who have been there a while. So
oh, I like that. Well, and you already mentioned that it's like multicolored Victorian houses, and like the artists with the old town vibe. That's I mean, it's really quirky and fun.
Yeah.
So I would say Magnolia is a town that you'd like to sit on a front porch with and have a cupcake and a margarita. So
yes,
it's a little bit sweet and a little bit sassy in there. So, and it's, you know, it's my version to me of a Southern town, but a new South, where there's a lot of old traditions and people who have been there for generations, but also characters coming in and creating what they want it to be. So I think it's a nice amalgamation of a lot of things.
Awesome.
I would say Rose Bin is like what we call one of those, like when we talk about like people in the church, we only halfway saved. That's what we because they're very loving, but if you mess with one of us, we're willing to throw down.
Yeah.
So we only halfway saved. So they're very protective. They're loving, but if you mess with one of us, we gonna fight.
I like it. I like it. You got to protect your people.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think that is a unique small town thing too. I think is that, you know, hey, we can all gossip about each other, but don't you gossip about us.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, it's that extended family component, you know. I love it. It's so delicious. So do you have a favorite? Have you written other towns, or are you mostly set in the towns that your current releases are in?
So I've written other towns. This is the town for my single titles with Harlequin with HQN, but I had a long-running series through Special Edition that was set in a little town in Colorado that was really a mashup of all my favorite things about mountain towns. So, and I think it's interesting having written in the West and now on the coast, the Southern coast, there is a really different pace and sort of personality of towns. I think geography makes a difference there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I have a series with Special Edition set in Gallant Lake, New York, which is in the Catskills. So it's a resort town. And so they're both in New York, but they don't interconnect. They're totally different personalities, but it's kind of fun. Gallant Lake is a little rougher around the edges maybe than Rendezvous Falls is. They're kind of working their way back from some tough financial times. So the locals have their suspicions about all this new stuff going on, even if it's bringing good things to town. So
sure.
A little bit different conflict.
Oh, I like that. Well, so it sounds like, from what I'm hearing so far, most of you are basing they're fictional towns, right? They're sort of like the ideal towns that are coming out of your imaginations. But we actually had a question from Joe, one of your people in your reader group sent some questions, and Fedora wanted to know, like, since your towns are maybe research-based, what is one of the most interesting things you've learned in the course of researching for your stories?
How much I'd really like a Victorian house. I think I like older houses anyways, but I'm now in a couple of Facebook groups about Victorian houses and old houses, and I don't have one, but the people are so interesting, and the projects and what they do to preserve those homes, that I've ended up becoming friends with people that I was supposed to be just hovering and getting a few tidbits, but I've gotten involved now. It's like I give people advice now on what to do with their Victorian house.
You've become a very specific architecture buff. I love that.
It is. And Joe, I'm reading Love Blooms right now, and it's just so cool when you go into the town. I feel like I'm going into the town. I can see those multicolored Victorians. I mean, it's such a vivid image. And I think as soon as you said that, everybody smiled because it's just so much fun. We'd all like to live in a house like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's in Rose Bend, there's the hero, he's the mayor, so he's on the town council. He's over the town council. I've never been to a town council meeting. So I called my father because, we grew up in a small town, and it's a small town, but it's like 20 minutes from Newark, so it's very close to a big city. So we have like spillover, so I had never been to one. So I called my father because he's like my go-to on everything. And he's like, well, yeah, you can go online and, your uncle, like my great uncle, he used to go to those things all the time. And he was a rebel rouser. He would go to just to cause trouble. So he was like, yeah, go to Patterson's. You can go there and you can look at videos. So I went on there just to look at a video of a town council so I can just get just enough to be able to describe this meeting accurately in the book. 2 hours later, I'm so just invested in this meeting and how people are just cutting up at these meetings. They're like so brutal. People are so brutal at these meetings. There was a fight at one. They're calling each other names. They're incredible. Like, oh, and it was so fun to watch because, I'm like a crime buff. And so it was like, somebody's about to break out. Are there cops around? I need to know. It's
going to be a true crime right now.
It was so fascinating. People are very invested in their towns. So that was wonderful. Like, I wasted 2 hours of writing, but it was great research.
That's awesome.
So I don't know if this isn't as good as Naima's research, but in a previous Magnolia book, The Last Carolina Sister, the heroine ran an animal rescue. And I have animals and we foster kittens for a local rescue, but I really wanted to do a deep dive on what this meant for, to run an organization like this. And part of that deep dive was following a lot of animal rescue organizations. And now my whole Facebook feed is these amazing dogs. What I've realized is that I could very easily become an animal hoarder because I want them all. And so everything just tugs at your heartstrings, and there are these amazing stories. But I feel like it's informed the writing in that, I try to pair the right animal with the right character. And so, learning these details and about what they're doing, I feel like it's really legitimate research, even though it's just me watching cute animal videos.
You know what? We all have our own paths, Michelle, and you are doing great work.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we've talked about small town romance. We've talked about your towns and the towns in general. And we've also touched a little bit on like characters within small towns, meddling book clubs, and, all of it. So do you have a favorite sort of character to write for small towns? Or like, do you have like a hierarchy? I don't know. Listen, I just want to look into your brains.
So funny.
And I have to say, one thing I like about writing these longer books for HQN is I can have characters of all ages. And so I love having older characters. I mean, let's face it, I'm older, so I enjoy writing about characters who are in my peer group or a little older, and I feel like I can portray them in a way that's not like grandma knitting in the rocking chair, but a little bit more, a little bit more like the older people that I know who are just
totally
as, weird and eccentric as anybody younger. But I also write some teenagers in my books too, and I have a 20-year-old, so I've been living the teenage life for quite a while now. And,
okay,
So I enjoyed that. You know, those two types of characters just like spice up the romance of the people who are usually more, 20s, 30s, 40s, who are the main hero and heroine.
Nice. That's really, really cool. Yeah, because I mean, I really like reading about older characters who are just as active and vibrant and interesting as the older people in my life, I really like that.
Yeah.
I think with mine, the inspiration for Rendezvous Falls came from, or the book club at least, came from my friends in North Carolina. We had a group of friends where we ranged from 60s to 80. And, we would go out to lunch. And there was this one time we just sat down at the lunch table and we hadn't sat down for 5 minutes and someone had flipped their middle finger and the F-bomb had been dropped twice. And, and all this stuff. And I'm just sitting there going, I love these people.
That's my crowd. I'm going to be honest with you. It's my crowd.
Yeah. And it's like, these are the seniors that you don't always see in the romance novels. It's like, there's nothing wrong with baking cookies in an apron. That's a wonderful thing, but that's not what all senior citizens are. Some of them are like my friends who
totally.
just, have to censor their language online.
Well, and who says you can't bake cupcakes in an apron while also cursing like a sailor? You know? Don't limit me. I contain multitudes.
I just want to say that was my grandmother.
Yes.
She told me to stop telling people that, but I just want to say I learned how to curse at her skirts. I just want to say that. And she was the first lady, and she told me to stop telling everybody that. But I love it. You did what you did. I'm just going to be honest.
Right. It's your life story too, Naima.
Well, and I think wonderful. And that ties into the small town characters is that they're very real. Yes. We've mentioned that a few times, but they feel very like real people to us because you do get to know people, I think, a little bit more in a small town, and you can kind of dive into those things or let the characters really explore that cursing side of them or whatever. Because you also find out that, like one of my older friends, probably swears more than all of us, has the biggest heart and is the kindest, would drop everything for you. And I think that's what you get to see in that small town is that balance.
Yep, that was mine. It was my grandmother.
So I have to say, Naima, I'm so glad to hear you say that because I turned 50 last month and I don't know, I just decided, okay, I'm 50 now. I'm not going to curse. I'm just going to give this horrible potty mouth.
I'm like, what?
And that lasted about 5 minutes. I even remembered it. And so hearing that about your grandmother, I'm like, yes, maybe I can just embrace that side. I will be that character for someone.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so Fedora actually wanted to know, speaking of characters, have you ever based a character on someone you know in real life?
Yes.
And have they noticed?
Well, so the mayor of Magnolia, his name is Malcolm Grimes, and he is actually I've based him on a real life character. He was one of my daughter's volleyball coaches, who then I became really close friends with, and he is such a character in real life that I asked him, I said, can I make you the mayor of my town? And he was like, heck yeah, you can, for sure. So, and I love the character, and I think readers really do too. He comes in and he drops these pearls of wisdom. And for me, it's so easy to write because it's based on this man who really has that role in our lives. So it's been fun, and he loves to see himself in the books, and gives them to everybody he knows, so that's even better.
See, that's the thing. I think it's surprising people actually really love to be featured in a book as long as it's done kindly.
Right.
Totally.
I work at exactly. So I work at a university, and I feel like the secretaries are some of the most underappreciated people at the university, and they run it. You know, they're basically in charge. So our department secretary is this amazing woman, and I asked her, can I, you know, use you in a book? And she's a big reader. She was thrilled. And I just felt great to be able to put her strengths and her quirks on the page, almost like a gift to her.
Yeah.
Well, the matriarch in my family is in the family in the Road to Rose Bend. Her name is Mo, and I based her on my grandmother. Her name is Lucille Austin, but we all called her Mo, and she had passed the year before. And when I was writing this book, and like I started writing, I knew the character I wanted to write. And she was such a larger than life woman. Like, she was the first lady of the church. She had such a huge personality. She could be so charming and so polite and so, but then you, on the other hand, like I said, she could drop an F-bomb in a minute, and she could gossip, and she was so funny, and she was just everything. And she raised a large family. When I tell you she was the matriarch. And so when I was writing this book, and she was who I wanted to base the character on. And so I was like, yeah, her name is going to be Mo. And I based her on my grandmother. And my father, of course, even before he read the name, he recognized her right away.
Yeah.
Oh, Naima, that's so beautiful. Oh my gosh.
My husband sees himself in the books all the time. He'll always look up at me and it's like, that was my line.
Yeah, but
it's all fair game when
he loves it though.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now he wants to know why he's never been put in my book.
You'll get your turn.
No, he won't.
Okay.
No, he won't. Never. Never.
You know what? Know your limits. I like it. You set those boundaries, Naima. So if you could spend a day with one of your characters, is there anybody in particular you would from your small town romance?
I'd hang out with my book club.
I would hang out with your book club.
Right?
I would too, yes.
It would feel like being with my pals. So yeah.
I would probably just go. So the bakery in Magnolia, Sunnyside Bakery, is sort of the Luke's Diner of the town. And I think I would like to just go spend a day drinking coffee and eating pastries and visiting with everybody who came through, because that's the hub of the town.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
I would spend a day with Mo, because like I said, she passed, and the fact that I based her on it would almost be like spending a day with her. So it would be like a freebie from heaven. So it would be like, I would definitely pick her.
That makes sense.
And Michelle, you gave me the idea of just going to a place. So I have an ice cream shop in Pleasant Shores that has the best chocolate milkshakes ever. And I describe them in vivid detail in every book. And readers are like, where could I get one of these? They're fictional, but I want to go there and have one. It sounds really good.
Yeah, that sounds like the only course of action, frankly.
Take us with you.
Yeah. All right, so we've got about 10 minutes left. I wanted to open things up to the viewers. If you have any questions, just type them into the chat function. I've been keeping an eye and I haven't quite seen anything yet. But yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll keep going with, I have a couple of craft questions. Are y'all okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we do have one question that's very exciting. Here we go. Robin wants to know, when you're building your main streets, are there some fun shops or restaurants you've created? It sounds like that milkshake nonsense is going to be in there.
I think in Rendezvous Falls, probably the diner. And it's just called the Spot Diner because I knew a Spot Diner once. Yeah, it was just, you went to the spot. And that's kind of where everybody congregates. And so it's kind of fun gossip center, advice center of towns.
Fun.
So my favorite spot, other than the bakery, is the hardware store, because I love going to a small town hardware store. Whenever we're on vacation, if I can find an Ace Hardware or some local mercantile, I just think you get such a flavor for the town, and you find really cool gifts, and so
really cool contractors,
right? I mean,
you cannot forget those.
Important too. A man who can handle a tool belt is an important characteristic.
Seriously,
I highly recommend a hardware store.
Oh my gosh, my small town was so small that we didn't have anything like that. We had a general store, and you could get everything from candy to hardware stuff to like deep fried burritos and chicken strips.
That's awesome.
So like,
I'm not buying chicken strips or burritos where I can get hardware.
Like all of us are jotting it down for our next book now.
Needs must. There was also only one stoplight in the whole place, and it was flashing.
Oh my God, the accidents. That's crazy.
Okay, so Jay Kocher wants to know, what made you decide to write small town romances? Did you grow up in a small town or live in one at any point?
I did. I grew up in a small town. Like I said, it was like 20 minutes from Newark, but it still was a small town. And everybody, like, it was literally one long road from one. You could really go from one. I biked from one end of it to the other. And everybody really did know everybody. Like my family, everybody knew my family. I couldn't get away with anything in my town. Everybody, because my grandfather was a pastor. Everybody knew him. And then my father became a pastor. Everybody knew him. Everybody knew my family. So it's like impossible to get away with anything. So it was that sense of community in my town. It was a great place to grow up. And so writing a small town is almost, when I decided to write a small town, I did actually draw on, I want to write a family that's like mine, loud, boisterous, loving, big, just with, sex I don't want to think about them having.
That's their business,
That's right. Keep that over there.
Yeah, I grew up in a small lakeside town, which is what both of my series are, small lakeside towns. But it was a really tiny town when I was growing up. We didn't even have a light. We were living when the blinking light came in. We were living. The town has now become a suburb of Syracuse that has sprawled up there, but it still has that same feel. But yeah, as a kid, it was. Everybody knew everybody. Same thing. If you went to the grocery store, you saw everybody that you knew. It's everybody that you went to church with. The kind of that that sense of community. I guess it comes up in our books too.
Wonderful.
I mean, I grew up in bigger city. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, and I think what I did was we drove to my grandparents' house in the country and drove through a gazillion little, cute, small Ohio towns. So I really didn't know what it was like to live in one. So I kind of created a more idealized image of a small town than is true, because now I live in a small town and I realize how kind of messy and complex things get in a small town.
Yeah.
I still
It's true.
like those images of beautiful pastoral Ohio towns.
I did that. I grew up in Cincinnati on the outskirts. Sort of small neighborhood. It had some feel to that, but definitely wasn't this small town. But I loved the idea of creating the small community, like the community feel I had within the small town. Plus, to be totally honest, it's a lot easier, in my opinion, to create your own fictional town than, dealing with and I've set books in Denver and places that I'm really familiar with, but there is a freedom in creating your own world, where your mind just as a writer can do whatever you want within the confines of what you can imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so couple of craft questions, because there's got to be another writer or aspiring writer in the viewership right now. So are there differences? I know that y'all write both series and standalones. Are there differences when you first come at writing those? Are the strategies different?
Well, I think with series, it's tighter. You still want to get that sense of community, but you can't have maybe as many community characters. You have to kind of pick and choose what that community is, because with series, you're really focused on the couple. The nice thing with single title is then you can have messy families and close friends and rivals and businesses and add more layers, I think, than you can with series. So with series, it's not that you can't do it. You've just got to be really focused on what you choose to do.
That's interesting.
I gotta say, I heave a sigh of relief when I come to writing a series book, because it's just simpler. Like, you don't have to do as much planning. You don't have to do as much weaving. You have to do as much devising in the shorter books. And, then I get done with one and I'm glad to go back into the bigger books. But I just breathe a sigh of relief. I love writing the short books.
Well, I would just like to say, if there are aspiring writers out there, I think I start every book with a blank page going, oh my gosh, this is the one where I'm not going to be able to do it again. And people are going to see that I was this fraud. I wrote 40-something books and I was...
Oh,
it was a fluke. So,
Joe, makes me feel better.
Because that, unfortunately, at least for me, never exactly changes. But then I get into it and I think, oh, yes, I remember this. This is my jam.
It's like the first time a character does something that makes, like, and I'm writing them, but the first time that as I'm typing, all of a sudden I kind of chuckle at something the character does, then I realize, okay, I'm back in it again. It's like, I know who these people are now. You can take off with it.
Yeah.
Okay. My answer is a combination of Joe's and Michelle.
That makes sense.
Just put theirs together, and that's mine. Yeah, that's what I got.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
That's me.
So our amazing producer has put all of your contact information and everything in the chat, because she is an amazing producer.
Yes.
I not only want to give y'all a big giant thanks for, lending us your time and talking all about this I don't know, just like vastly interesting subject, which I feel like I don't know. It's just so fun. But yeah, thank you so much. And is there anything else that you want to leave our wonderful viewers with?
Thank you.
Thank you for being
Thanks for reading.
Support your indie bookstores.
Yeah.
Thanks. This was fun. This was really a good time.
Yeah. I got the people.
Yeah. Well, and HQN has put together so much more programming for today. There's not only more panels later on today, but I know, Naima, you're going to be part of like a game night later on.
I did it last night. Yeah, it was.
It was last
fun.
night.
Yeah, and you can watch it. You can watch it again. It was hilarious. Yes.
How fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So enjoy.
Thanks, everybody. Great
to
see
you.
you.
Thank you, everybody.